Smart Austin. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Phil Capriotti Sr. of Empower Wealth and Tax. To our viewers at home, we have a very special episode for you today. If you're considering retirement, or let's say you've been forced into retirement early, perhaps there's a corporate buyout, or just whatever circumstances have changed that have forced you into a different realm of your life, there are some emotions that people deal with. We're going to do a deep dive. I want to talk to Phil in detail today about what happens when someone has to retire when they didn't expect to. Phil, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, Cynthia. And yourself?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this show with me today, because I think it's a very good one, a very important one. You know, things in the world have been so different for so many of us since, let's just say COVID, since 2020. And I know with that, we have a lot of different things that people have been going through. Perhaps someone has been at their job for years and years and years, and they loved it. It was their identity. It was their extended family. And then all of a sudden, something shifted, and they were forced into retirement. That can cause emotional upheaval. So, Phil, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today. Okay. Some of the emotions that people face when they're forced into retirement. Number one, right out of the gate, we're getting right into it, folks, anxiety.
You know, we see it a lot. So over the last, since we started doing our workshops, since I started my own company in 2005, I've had literally, without exaggeration, several hundred situations, encounters with folks that were forced to retire and weren't expecting to. So, for instance, their retirement date or expected date was, let's say, 67. We'll just use that as an arbitrary number. Okay. And then all of a sudden, they were forced into retirement at 60.
Wow.
Well, they're expecting to work and have earning years for the next 7 years, and now all of a sudden, the rug's pulled out from it. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a client, and her name is Carol, and she worked at one of the local hospitals. And when we went through, and she was 61 years old, loved her job, been a nurse, been an RN for upwards of 30 plus years. And just as you said, the doctors that she worked with, the staff that she worked with, it was a lot of interaction.
Yeah.
Well, when COVID hit, they demanded, I don't want to use, I'll use the word demand. They demanded that every nurse, every doctor, anyone that worked in the hospital must take a COVID shot. And she said, she told me, she said, I couldn't do it. And I asked her, I said, why couldn't you do it? She said, well, I've been working in the medical industry now for the past 30 plus years. I take care of sick people. I help heal sick people. And now the hospital wants to force me to take a shot, a vaccine that hasn't been tested for 5 or 10 years. And I told her, I understand exactly what you mean. I understand. It almost felt, it felt like, I don't want to, more like a Marxist type of a thing.
Absolutely.
You must take this shot or you can't work. So she stopped. She said, I'm not going to take the shot. And they basically gave her 90 days, then they extended it another 180 days. And then she just said, you know what? I'm not taking the shot. And so the beginning of the following year, I'm going to say 2021, she was forced into retirement.
Wow.
Now, the first thing when she came in, she said, Phil, I'm not sure if I can do this. I mean, financially.
Right.
But it's going against my morals and my principles. I can't stay. So I talked to her, so we had a long conversation. So she was concerned, primary concern is that she would not have enough financial resources to make it through retirement. She has very good family health history. Mom alive at 90, 94, 95. Father lived into his 90s as well.
Okay.
Takes good care of herself. She's in the medical field. She's a medical practitioner. And so she expects to live into her 90, 95 even. You know, we had a talk about, I'm going to be one of those centennials. I'm like, you want to live to 100? Okay,
yeah,
great.
That's awesome.
Her concern was that she was going to run out of money in her 80s because she was forced to stop working 7 years prior to her expected retirement date.
And Phil, that's only one story of so many people that we've talked to across the country who, even going through a corporate buyout, all of a sudden they're forced into retirement. And the financial piece, of course, that's extremely important. Everyone wants peace of mind. They want to know they have a guaranteed income stream, and all of a sudden you're responsible for paying yourself. But also just the emotional aspect of it. Anxiety, number one. Number two, Phil, this is a big one. People are feeling lonely. Forced into retirement, they're lonely. All of a sudden, they don't have the extended work family anymore. They weren't ready for this new phase of life that they're in. Let's just say, for example, their spouse is still working, but they have nothing to do every day. How do you help coach folks to be ready for what that new phase of life could look like?
Well, the very first thing that you need to do, as far as, and again, I'm not a PhD, I'm not a doctor, but the very first thing that you want to do if you find yourself sinking into a depression is counseling.
Okay.
So I recommend, and what's the best counseling? Social interaction. That's my own personal opinion. So if you find yourself in one of these situations where you were forced to retire, let's say you're married, your one spouse is working, what happens is, for the first 6 months, it's wonderful, okay?
Right.
Wow, I don't have to get up in the morning. I don't have to get ready. And then reality sinks in, okay? Like for this individual that we talked about prior, her friends alienated her. Some of her family alienated her, and she really got into that. And we started talking, I mean, I visited with her 5 or 6 times a year. And by the way, folks, one of the good things is she got an opportunity to come into the office more frequently because she was retired. But the fact of the matter is, what you really want to do is start to exercise and put yourself in an environment of motion.
Great idea.
So many folks, what they do is when they're forced to retire earlier, even when they retire, they become many times, unfortunately, couch potatoes. And the problem with that, folks, the problem with doing that is, number one, your health deteriorates significantly faster because you're inactive.
Yeah.
So and I'll tell you a story. My father, this happened to my dad. My dad retired early. Now, my dad was a very hard worker. I never saw him miss one day of work. In fact, I think the man never got sick.
Yeah.
Because whether he was sick or not, he was up and he was at work. He retired at 64. He retired early.
Okay.
My mom was still working. He retired early, and he passed away 9 months later. So and it wasn't that he was unhealthy.
Yeah.
He died in his sleep 9 months later. So I think that this is a very valid point. It's important to, and I believe it had to do with the lack of social interaction. I think that had a big part to play. The other thing is he didn't keep himself busy. I said, Dad, why don't you play golf with Uncle Tony and Uncle Danny? Uncle Joe. They had, my 3 uncles played golf. They play golf all the time. The 3 of them were retired. I said, give Uncle Danny a call. Be the 4th. He goes, I don't know how to hit a ball. It doesn't matter. Get out there. They'll help you. The point is getting out, staying active. And it's very, very important when you find yourself being forced into retirement or having to, or even being forced into retirement because of health or medical conditions. It's important that you have a game plan, not just for retirement, but a game plan for inactivity from your primary career.
Well, Phil, this is the perfect time for us to take our very first commercial break. To our viewers at home, as you can see, today's a little bit of a different show on Retire Smart Austin. We understand that your retirement is not just about finances. It's also about your emotional well-being. It's about different things that you're going to experience and face as you're entering those retirement years. Phil has set aside 5 spots this week for you to claim. one per person, please. That number is 888-818-6557. If you're finding yourself in a situation where you're being forced into retirement early, or perhaps you are in that retirement red zone and you're not sure what it's going to look like for you when you do retire, Phil is offering you this complimentary consultation. Don't miss the opportunity to claim that spot. 888-818-6557. We're going to take a very short commercial break here on Retire Smart Austin, but don't go anywhere. We're talking all about your retirement health, not only financially, but also emotionally. Stay tuned.
Most of the folks that we work with are not going to outlive their money. When an individual comes into our firm, the very first question they ask, how do I know you're going to be here 5 years from now? Your financial advisor and your licensed fiduciary, this should be a lifelong commitment. It shouldn't be a revolving door. Exercise generational planning. We have an opportunity to not only work together with retirees, but having my children work with their children, my grandchildren working with their grandchildren. So we're establishing a relationship that will literally go through several generations. I have 3 children that are actively in the business. My youngest son, Parker, who's 22, is a junior trader. He works in our home office in Phoenix with Foundations. He's in a 3-year mentoring program. My son, Philip, is also a licensed fiduciary. He's 41 years old. He will take over the business. And my daughter, Lisa, my oldest daughter, who's 42, also has her securities and fiduciary license as well. This company will pass to my children and hopefully someday to my grandchildren, but in the interim, teaching them through my example, that's our firm.
Welcome back to Retire Smart Austin. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Phil Capriotti Sr. of Empower Wealth and Tax, and we're talking all about your retirement health. Not just your income that you need to have coming in, but also your emotional well-being. Phil, one of the things that people are feeling when they're forced into retirement, or perhaps they've planned this, but they weren't sure what that first day was going to feel like, the loss of structure in one's life. Wow. How often do you hear that when people come in and they're like, Phil, I retired, thank you, you did the portfolio review, I'm in great shape, but wow, that next day I didn't know what to do.
Right. Many folks think that, oh, this is great, I don't have to get up anymore, I don't have to worry about, I can lounge around. Many folks take, and I really think it's psychological, it truly is. Many folks start taking more vacations. So I'll have folks they'll come in and I'm like, how are you enjoying retirement? And they're like, well, the first 3 or 4 months, I was great. I didn't have to get up. I didn't have to fight that Austin traffic. I didn't have to fight getting in on time and leaving and wasting 10, 11 hours of my day doing my job. So I said, well, how do you like it? She goes, I'm bored. Okay, I'm bored. I said, well, what are you doing with yourself? She goes, well, there's only so much TV, and I don't like watching TV. I find myself watching movies now. I never watched movies in my life. Okay, I'm like, okay. I said, what about taking up pickleball?
Oh, there you go.
Let's play a little golf. How about tennis? I'm not really athletically inclined. I said, well, here's the thing. You don't really have to be athletically inclined to get involved in many of these sports or activities. Many times, folks, and if you find yourself in this position, they have all different levels of competition. Okay, like I'll give you, for instance, over at the club, my wife and I joined Horseshoe Bay Country Club. We're members there. It was one of the best things we ever did. She retired about 9 years ago, and I had because one of the things is I'm going to work every day. I'd come home, and it's like, he's here, I can talk with him. Okay, so I said, look, hon, I said, let's start because I like to play golf. I'm not very good at it, but I like to play golf. I said, let's get you signed up for some golf lessons. So she took a couple golf lessons. She goes, I just don't fit in there. I can't picture myself playing 18 holes. I said, honey, they have this thing called the Fab Four. She says, what's that? She says, I said, you play 4 holes with a bunch of other gals that are in the same position that you are. They haven't done anything. You play 4 holes with an instructor, and at the end you sit down and you drink some wine together and you have a social. So
there you go.
Yeah, so she was like, oh, I can do that. So the point that I'm making is it's extremely important that when you retire, or if you're forced into retirement, especially if your financial well-being is set, make yourself busy. Find things that you like. Find hobbies that you like. Even many times, something you never thought you would like in your entire life, you find after doing it for 6 months, 9 months, it now becomes your new habit. It now becomes something that motivates you in retirement and actually makes you thankful.
Absolutely, absolutely, so important. One of the things I think that tie back into the number one topic that we spoke of is anxiety. Obviously, Phil, you and I both know that a lot of that anxiety comes from creating a solid written income plan for retirement. Now, if someone on that same vein, forced into retirement, they're offered their pension, they have the option of taking the lump sum or they can stagger it. How do you help someone determine what they should do?
You know, we find this a lot. I work with a lot of the Austin Police Department, and it's kind of funny. We started working with a couple firefighters that were retired, and they have this plan called a drop plan. I'll explain it in a second. And now Austin Police, we're asked to come in and do workshops, and I'm looking forward to doing that, by the way, guys. You folks really work extremely hard. We want to talk about the definition of public service.
Yeah.
You put your life in danger every single day protecting us. And many folks, unfortunately, nowadays don't seem to appreciate it. But what happens is they don't know what to do with the money. So one of the things with this drop program, or a buyout, okay, or a severance package, you may have the opportunity to roll it into an IRA and then take that IRA. Now that you're retired and you're not making that extra income, we can slowly, and I know I hound on this, convert it to a tax-free retirement plan. So this can actually be a goal. Once you retire, you're forced into retire. Yes, you may experience anxiety. Yes, you feel as though you're socially disconnected. Let's look at what we can do inside of your retirement plan to help you accomplish a worthy objective, which would be, since you worked the last 40, 50 years and paid taxes during those years, how about if we work on a plan to make you tax-free in retirement? So with many of these drop plans that we were just talking about, we're taking them, we're moving them out of the drop plan because you have to take the money. I've seen this happen a couple times, is they take this drop money and instead of putting it into an IRA, or they take the retirement, instead of putting it into a qualified plan, they move it into their checking or their savings account, and the entire plan becomes taxable in the current year. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're getting ready to offer you a severance, if you're in Austin or any police department or fire department, you're getting close. We are not only experienced, but let us help show you what to do with this money to make sure that you don't create inadvertently a major tax hazard in your retirement, because that'll surely get you to depression.
Absolutely, it will. Well, Phil, this is time for our second commercial break, and I know you have 5 spots open this week.
We do. You know, give us a call. Dial 888-818-6557. And you know what I'm finding, Cynthia? A lot of folks are clicking on the QR code, and we're not getting the phone calls. But then again, what we're saying is we'll get 4 or 5 people click on that QR code.
Yes.
Come in. Let's talk about a written retirement income plan that's tax efficient. And let's talk about how to look at your portfolio. It's extremely important when you retire and you stop receiving that income that you change your portfolio's dynamics. We want to make sure that this portfolio is not full of risk, and we do that by running a Morningstar report and a portfolio analysis. These are done by certified financial planners that we work with to help our clients. So call 888-818-6557. Come in, visit with our staff. We're friendly. There's no obligation to work with us, or click that QR code and come on in and visit with us, and let's have a conversation.
Phil, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is 888-818-6557. We know that you have a lot of questions for Phil about how to plan your perfect retirement, especially if you've been forced into retirement early, like we're talking about on today's show. Phil is able to help you guide those, navigate those waters is what I'm trying to say, so that you are not feeling uncertain, you're not feeling anxious, and that you have peace of mind in retirement. And again, we're going to take a very short commercial break here on Retire Smart Austin, but we're not talking only about your financial health, we're also talking about your emotional health this week in retirement. Stay tuned.
They've got quite an extensive resume. Wow, so many years of management. Bet that was fun. So this job requires basic knowledge of the social media and video platforms, content creation, and SEO. How proficient are you in those areas?
You know, going back to work after retiring is not ideal. I'm Philip Capriotti, CEO of Empower Wealth and Tax. If you amassed a nest egg, it's time for a financial advisor to help you reach your retirement goals. This is one of the greatest tax windows in history. Now is the time to take advantage of this tax discount while we can. We specialize in retirement income planning, tax mitigation, estate planning, and so much more. So plan your retirement right. Call now for your own complimentary portfolio review and tax analysis.
Welcome back to Retire Smart Austin. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Phil Capriotti Sr. of Empower Wealth and Tax, and we're talking all about your retirement, not only your financial security, but also your emotional well-being in today's episode. And Phil, I know that in the Austin viewing area, you have a lot of high net worth clients, a lot of power clients, a lot of power couples.
Yep.
And what we have found in the study that we're referencing from Forbes today is a lot of people that are in these high income producing roles, once they step into retirement, they start to feel irrelevant because so many people are seeking out their guidance, their wisdom, their advice on a daily basis. And then all of a sudden they feel like they're irrelevant. How do you help people cope? Because I know you have a lot of people in that position right now that are that power couple, that high income earner.
Yeah, we do. You're right, Cynthia. And you know, once you get over the, giddiness of now you're retired, okay, reality starts to set in, and where you would be teaching people, directing people, helping other folks in your organization focus. Here you are, and you yourself are not really completely focused. Okay, so what I normally talk with people about when they come in and we have this conversation, and we do frequently, I'll ask them, do you have any children? Do you have any grandchildren? And what I like to recommend is, fortunately, you know, the good Lord has blessed me with 5 children, 8 grandchildren.
It's amazing.
All right. Now, this is retirement for me. So
Yes.
this is, okay, I'm in a different situation.
Yes.
Owning and running the company. But what I'll tell them is, why don't you focus some of that knowledge on maybe working with your grandchildren? Spending more time with your grandchildren.
Absolutely.
Making them an important priority. And they're like, well, you know, my kids work. And I'm like, that's okay. You moved here to be with your children, okay? Your children have children. Spend more time. Pick them up. Forget the daycare. Pick them up for the day. Take them out.
Yes.
Swing a club with them.
Yes.
Okay. Play cars with them.
Memories.
Do anything.
Making memories.
Yeah. So many times we don't focus on what's staring us right in the face, common sense strategies of getting us out of that, making us feel not only relevant, but important, and helping us to give back to not only our family, but to the community. Charities. I really like being a member of the Chamber of Commerce and doing things for charitable. And it doesn't really matter what it Toys for Tots. Yeah. Anything, but get involved and give back to the community. What you'll find is that the more you give back, the more you'll receive in just personal blessings and just a feeling of not only relevance, but importance. You'll move into a whole nother phase, okay, of your development in your career, your retirement career.
And what we know, Phil, more than anything, is that when we give to others, we receive so many blessings back. So that is an amazing thing. What about the role of a consultant? Do you have any clients that say, gosh, I want to do something, Phil, can I still do the consultant?
A lot.
thing?
So I'll tell clients, look, you made contacts during your career. You've worked with ABC Corp or whatever, or a different, depending on the field of study, whether you were an attorney or whether you were an accountant, whether you were a CEO, do consulting.
Yes.
So one of the nice things, many companies do not want to hire those of us who are baby boomers because they can replace us easier with younger kids who they can pay less.
True.
So many of these companies now, however, want to take us on as consultants. They want us to be, number one, they don't have to pay Social Security tax. They're looking at it, again, they're looking at it as a bean counter. I like that. But they're looking at it, and not only that, we can give our knowledge to multiple different companies. Now we have the freedom to be a consultant, and you get to pick and choose who you want to work with. And many times it's not really about the money. It's about being active, and it's about being socially active, okay, and mentally engaged.
Sure, that's what it comes down. And honestly, like you said, Phil, you don't want to sit on the front porch with your retirement. This is not the end of your story. This is just another chapter in your life.
Right.
And it's so important.
Yeah, that's right. So many folks just don't see it that way. So, by the way, if you're retired and you feel like you've fallen into this hole, this pit, come on in, give us a call, dial 888-818-6557. Let's have a conversation, and let's see what other options you have in retirement. I just had a client retire. He just sold his company, and he did I won't name the company, but he just sold the company, and all of a sudden now he feels like he's nowhere. I said, well, you sold the company, and what they did was they replaced underground pipes without digging holes.
What?
He designed a he designed a process of basically feathering a new pipe through the old pipe, so they would pull new pipe straight, like under golf courses in the city street.
Brilliant.
Isn't that brilliant?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So they've been doing this for like 25 years, and he's like, Phil, he goes, I want to get a big SUV, and I just want to drive the country. I said, what are you going to do after that? He says, well, I'm not really sure. I said, maybe you might want to be a consultant.
Phil, thank you. To our viewers at home, thank you for joining us for this very special episode this week about not only your financial health, but also your emotional well-being in retirement. That number is 888-818-6557. We look forward to seeing you back 1 week from today on Retire Smart Austin. Be safe, be happy, and be blessed. Take care.